A matte gray crossover glided silently along a near-empty road in the sleepy town of Clearbrook, where dusk painted the sky in streaks of purple. Behind the wheel sat Jordan Fields, a 42-year-old woman with calm eyes and a steady posture. She wore a navy blue blazer and flats, business casual, understated but sharp. Jordan wasn't just driving home after a long day at a government facility. She happened to be the chief of the Bureau of Federal Investigations, an agency not exactly known for handing out that title easily. But on this quiet Tuesday night, she wasn't thinking about agency briefings or classified operations. She was looking forward to leftover Thai food and the last few chapters of a mystery novel she kept on her nightstand. The streets were mostly clear. A few vehicles ambled past, headlights flickering under old street lamps. The soft buzz of tires on asphalt was all she heard. That is, until flashing lights bloomed in her rearview mirror like a sudden migraine. Red and blue spirals. A siren cut through the silence seconds later. Jordan's brow furrowed. She checked the dashboard, no speeding, no warning lights. She hadn't run a stop sign or veered. Still, she slowed, pulled over and parked neatly on the shoulder. As she rolled the window down, a man in his early 30s approached. Tall, pale, buzzcut. His nameplate said, Merritt. His scowl beat him to the door. Without introduction, he leaned toward her window. Random safety check, he said flatly. Jordan tilted her head slightly. Is there something unsafe about me or this car? Merritt didn't reply. Instead, he barked, license and registration. Jordan complied, slow and steady, opening the glove box and handing over the documents. The officer glanced at them briefly, barely even checking, and spun on his heel back to his cruiser without a word. Sitting alone, Jordan gripped the steering wheel. This wasn't new. Even with her credentials, even with her status, the routine was familiar. She'd fought her way up in a system that often pretended it was blind to race and gender, only to prove time and again that it wasn't. Merritt came back minutes later, now visibly annoyed. Need to see your state ID, he said sharply. Jordan blinked. My license and registration are both valid. You're now asking for a third form of ID. You're acting twitchy, Merritt said. Car like this? Doesn't match someone like you. The words were like a slap, but she didn't flinch. What exactly is someone like me? She asked. He shrugged, eyes flicking over her blazer and slacks. Just doesn't fit. She leaned back. You realize this is not standard protocol. What you're doing is intimidation. If you don't hand me your ID, I'll have to take you in, he said, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Jordan folded her hands in her lap. I know the law. You have no right to detain me without cause. You're walking a fine line, he snapped, placing his hand on his utility belt, right near the holster. Her voice stayed steady. Threatening me with force for a traffic stop that didn't happen? That's abuse of power. He slammed his palm onto the roof of her car. You think you're above the law? I don't, she said. I just know it better than you do. Merritt stepped closer, his shadow cutting across her face. Last chance. ID, now. She inhaled slowly, then lifted her phone where he could see it. Making a call, she said calmly. To who? He demanded, suddenly uneasy. Jordan tapped a contact and put the phone to her ear. Yes, it's Jordan Fields. I'm being harassed by a local officer off Route 14. I need the regional commander to respond. His posture stiffened. Who are you calling? He asked again, this time quieter. She didn't answer. She read off her location into the phone and ended the call. Help's on the way, she said, her eyes never leaving his. Minutes passed. Then headlights appeared in the distance, growing fast. Another vehicle pulled up, a dark vehicle with the insignia of state law enforcement. A man stepped out. Tall, Latino mid-50s, graying hair under his wide-brimmed hat. Captain Miguel Torres. Merritt, Torres called, his voice even but sharp. You want to explain what's going on here? Merritt straightened. She refused to cooperate. I suspected. Holster your weapon and back off, Torres interrupted. Now. Jordan stayed quiet, watching. Torres walked over, glanced at Jordan, then back at Merritt. You stopped a driver without cause, escalated for no reason, and nearly pulled a weapon on her. Explain yourself. I was just doing my job. No. You weren't, Torres said flatly. He turned to Jordan. Ma'am, are you okay? Jordan nodded. Unharmed. But what your officer did was unlawful. Torres took a step back. Then his eyes widened. Wait a minute. Jordan Fields? You're... Yes, she said. Director Fields. FBI. The realization dropped like a stone. Merritt's jaw moved but no words came out. The color drained from his face. You pulled this stunt, Torres said, on a federal director? Are you out of your mind? I didn't know who she was, Merritt stammered. Doesn't matter. Jordan cut in. It shouldn't matter who I am. You targeted me because you could. That's the issue. Torres nodded grimly. Merritt, back to the station. Full incident report. Effective immediately. But sir... Go. Now. Merritt slunk back to his vehicle, humiliated. Torres looked back at Jordan. Director Fields, I'm deeply sorry. This isn't who we are. And it won't be brushed aside. It better not be, she said. Because next time, it could be someone without the authority to push back. He nodded solemnly. I'll make sure this gets handled the right way. She believed him, but she also knew this wasn't the end. This was one crack in a much larger wall. And tonight she just widened it. As the last of the patrol car's taillights faded into the night, Jordan sat quietly behind the wheel. Her fingers slowly relaxed their grip on the steering wheel, but her mind didn't settle as easily. The encounter was over, yet the tension it stirred lingered in her chest like smoke after a fire. Visible or not, the damage remained. Captain Torres stood beside her window, the edge in his posture softening. Would you like an escort home? He asked. Jordan shook her head. I think I need the drive. Torres nodded, not pushing. Understood. Just know this won't disappear into paperwork. I'll report everything to Internal Affairs, and the Civilian Review Board will hear about it too. She studied his face, steady, apologetic, firm. She believed him, but she also knew bureaucracy was built on delays, on red tape and diluted responsibility. Still, she appreciated the gesture. I'll hold you to that, she said. He gave her a small nod, then stepped back. She rolled up the window, shifted into drive, and eased back onto the road. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't the kind she had longed for earlier. This silence was heavy, loud in its own way. What happened tonight wasn't new. Not to her. Not to so many others. She thought of her younger years, sitting in police station lobbies as a rookie agent while senior officers brushed her off as the intern. She thought of how many times she'd had to prove she was supposed to be in the room, that her authority was earned, not borrowed. No matter how far she rose, the struggle trailed behind her like a shadow she couldn't shake. Tonight was proof. Even with the title director, a clean record, and the badge of federal power, she still wasn't safe from a traffic stop spiraling into something dangerous. And if it could happen to her, what about the ones without a voice, without backup on speed dial, without a captain who would show up in time? That was the part that churned in her gut. At a red light, she reached for her phone, not to call anyone, but to open her notes app. She started typing, her thumbs moving fast. National Training Reform. Bias Intervention. Dashcam Transparency. Mandatory Escalation Protocol Reviews. These weren't new ideas. She'd drafted versions of them before, sat in meetings where they were dissected, stalled, diluted. But now they felt personal again. Urgent. She wouldn't let this go. By the time she pulled into her driveway, the sky had deepened to full night. Porch lights flickered on automatically as she stepped out of the car. Her home was quiet, warm, the kind of peace she'd hoped for at the start of the evening. But her appetite was gone now. The book on her nightstand could wait. Instead, she went to her office. The one tucked in the back of her house, filled with dusty law journals, unopened mail, and a whiteboard she hadn't updated in months. She flipped on the lamp. The room glowed gold. Pulling out a marker, she wrote a single word across the board in bold, block letters. Confront. She stared at it for a long moment. What happened on that roadside wasn't just an interaction, it was a pattern, repeated across zip codes, cities, and departments. Ignoring it was complicity. Reporting it was duty. Confronting it was justice. And confrontation didn't always mean shouting in a uniform's face. Sometimes it looked like policy shifts, press briefings, federal pressure on local agencies. She had tools. She had leverage. She'd use them. The system had tested her, again, and she had stood firm. But the next person might not get that chance. Might not make it to the end of the night with their story intact. That's what kept her in that chair long past midnight, drafting memos and redlining action items, fueled not by anger, but by clarity. The road ahead wouldn't be clean or quick. It never was. But it would be hers to walk, and she intended to walk it loud. Because power meant nothing if you didn't use it to protect the powerless. And silence? Silence was the worst kind of betrayal. She stood, capped the marker, and whispered to the empty room, "This ends now. Not just for me, for everyone after me."